රිවයින් කරන්න පුළුවන් නිසා මුකුත් මගේ වෙන්නේ.
BOTV TV බලන හොඳම විදිහ.
Good evening. Tonight, reintroducing the death sentence. President Maithripala Sirisena says that he will sign off on the death penalties on drug traffickers. The secrecy of a formula. Cabinet spokesman Dr. Rajitha Senaratne says that fuel prices will vary monthly according to the price formula. Views continue to be expressed on the matter.
The price at the oil pump should reflect international prices.
The government should be able to give fuel at a much lower price than what they are charging today.
Work freely. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe assures a free working environment without political interference for public sector officials.
We are very proud of this achievement. Together with this law, you can ensure operational independence of the officials.
And in international headlines, trouble brewing. A no-confidence motion seems to be in the loom for UK Prime Minister Theresa May after several key resignations shook her government. And in sports, through to the finals. France are already through to the World Cup final and awaits the winner of today's second semi-final between Croatia and England.
Other Derana, first at 9. Sponsored by
Nestamol Plus, now with the goodness of oats.
From Nestle.
Live across the nation, this is Sri Lanka's news channel, Other Derana 24/7. Hello everyone, I'm Ayush Johnny and welcome to First at 9. Tonight we want to begin our broadcast with an in-depth look as to how the rising fuel prices will affect you. Now, there was some confusion over the recent fuel price hike, with the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation putting the prices up last Friday, only to reverse it back later on in the day. Following the cabinet meeting yesterday, it was decided that the prices of fuel of the CPC should be increased to the earlier proposed levels, and accordingly, it went up since last midnight. Today, the government said that fuel prices will be revised on the 10th of every month in accordance with the fuel pricing formula. Cabinet co-spokesperson Minister Rajitha Senaratne revealed the decision during the weekly cabinet media briefing today.
Last Friday, fuel stations across the island increased prices of fuel following a notice from the Ministry of Finance. During the day, however, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation issued a circular informing its regional officers to leave the fuel prices unchanged and sell fuel at the prices which existed the day before. Lanka IOC, however, did not follow the CPC and pumped fuel at revised prices. It was in this confusing backdrop that the Ministry of Finance and mass media issued a communique later in the day on Friday, stating that fuel prices were revised according to the powers vested in the committee appointed on the fuel pricing formula. The ministry went on to say that a definite decision will also be taken at the next cabinet meeting regarding the fuel prices of the CPC. Following these developments on Friday, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation increased fuel prices with effect from last midnight. It is noteworthy that the margins of the newly increased fuel prices are in fact the same as those which were announced and later withdrawn on Friday through a circular. Accordingly, the price of a litre of 92-octane petrol was increased to 145 rupees, a hike of 8 rupees from the previous price of 137 rupees. Price of a litre of octane 95 petrol was increased by 7 rupees to 155 rupees. The price of a litre of diesel was increased by 9 rupees to 118 rupees, while the price of a litre of super diesel was increased by 10 rupees to 129 rupees. As soon as CPC's decision was made public last night, long queues were seen at refuelling stations across the country. Meanwhile, the issue was also given substantial focus during the cabinet media briefing today.
මේ මධ්‍යම රාත්‍රියේ ඉඳන් තෙල් මිල නැවත වැඩි කරනවා. එතකොට දල අමාත්‍යවරයා එක වතාවක් වැඩි කරාම ඒක නැවත අඩු කරනවා. මේ වැඩි කිරීම කරේ මිල සූත්‍රයට අනුවම. අඩු කරේ නෑ වැඩි.
Increased prices were never reduced again. Since no one else understood what the situation was, the finance minister took action to halt implementing the decision until it reaches the cabinet.
කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට එනකම්. මෙහෙම තීන්දුවක් මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශය ගන්නේ කංජ තෙල් අමාත්‍යාංශය විමසන්නේ නැතුවද? එහෙම නැත්නම් ජනාධිපතිවරයාගෙන් විමසන්නේ නැතුවද? නෑ ඒක නෙවෙයි.
They had earlier taken the approval of the cabinet to implement the pricing formula from the 5th of July. Meanwhile, President of the All-Ireland Private Bus Owners Association, Gamunu Vijayaratne, said that a formula related to bus fares must also be maintained by the Finance Ministry. When the fares were hiked last time around, we accused the Deputy Minister of Transportation. Now we don't have the power to either increase or decrease bus fares as we see fit, because the Cabinet gave its approval to stop bus fare changes for the next 2 years following the 12.5% hike. It is the common people who travel in these buses, and if we keep increasing fares because of fuel prices, the public will be inconvenienced. So the Ministry of Finance should also maintain a pricing formula related to bus fares, which should be implemented parallel to the fuel price changes. They increased the prices on the 5th of July, and by the next day, the government was able to loot a lot of money from three-wheeler professionals. We understand that we can't increase fares because the public will be inconvenienced, but for three-wheeler professionals to cover their expenses and make a profit, the fare for the first kilometre should be increased to at least 80 rupees. That's why we propose the government that it arrives at a solution which would be fair to both three-wheeler professionals as well as the public. Also speaking exclusively to First at 9, State Minister of Finance Derana spoke on the importance of having a fuel pricing formula.
We are following international practice in that the price at the oil pump should reflect international prices. And therefore, when the international oil prices go down, the consumer must receive the benefit of it. When the international oil prices go up, then the consumer has a decision to make of how much the consumer may consume. And that's exactly what we have done through the fuel price formula. We're really empowering the consumer to make his decisions. The price of petrol is still cheaper than many countries in the region. Still, with the exception of Nepal, even the price of diesel in Bangladesh and India are higher than the prices in Sri Lanka.
Now, the argument of the government is that fuel price must be fixed to the world crude oil prices. Now, this graph shows, particularly during the last 4 years of the previous government, the world crude oil prices were around $110 per barrel. Then in January, there was a sharp drop. And thereafter, even though the prices started increasing again, you can see, even to date, the world fuel prices are far below the prices we had in 2014. According to this comparison, the government should be able to give fuel at a much lower price than what they're charging today. So then, why is the prices going up? The obvious reason is the rupee has devalued. Over the last 3.5 years, Sri Lankan rupee under the current government has devalued by almost 22%. Also, we have information that the taxes also have been increased by about 10 rupees per litre. If not for these reasons, government should have been able to give fuel much lower prices than today.
Now, the JVP demands from the government to reveal the pricing formula which set to determine fuel prices. This demand was made by its General Secretary, Parliamentarian Tilvin Silva, when addressing a media briefing today. When
they unload the widely used 92-octane petrol at the harbour, it is priced at 78 rupees and 43 cents. To that, the government imposes a tax of 60 rupees and 63 cents. So yesterday's rise in fuel prices have been attributed to the fact that they are recovering losses at the Petroleum Corporation. Recently, the President intervened to reduce increased fuel prices, but the very same President agrees to the increase yesterday afternoon. It's not clear as to how that happened. Honestly, there is no government currently governing this country, and it is very clear. We can see divisions. The government said that they are introducing a fuel pricing formula. However, no one knows as to what that formula is. We are requesting the government to explain this formula to us. If you do that, we too can determine as to how prices fluctuate. If the government has a formula to determine fuel prices, our question to the government is as to why don't you have a formula towards salaries of people? If prices of fuel is going up according to the formula, then the salaries of government employees too should increase accordingly. With the Minister of Buddha Sasana, Gamini Jayavikrama Pereira, saying yesterday that the Cabinet unanimously agreed to reinstate the death penalty, President Maithripala Sirisena too weighed in on the subject today. He was, however, hesitant in enforcing the capital punishment across the board, saying that he is willing to sign off on death penalties to incarcerate drug traffickers already sentenced to death who continued large-scale narcotic operations from their cells. The President delivered his thoughts on the matter at the inaugural
inauguration of the campaign Schools to Boost Fight Against Drugs at the Gatame grounds in Kandy this morning.
The campaign Schools to Boost Fight Against Drugs is organised by the National Drugs Eradication Campaign, the Presidential Task Force Against Drugs, together with the Ministry of Education, with the intention of saving school children from the menace of drugs. There are numerous people convicted for drug-related cases. They engage in drug trafficking whilst being incarcerated. Yesterday, I made a proposal to the Cabinet of Ministers. When someone is sentenced to death, the President has to sign the relevant order. As a Buddhist, there may be several definitions to this, but we have to think about the children and the future generations. Yesterday, I asked for a report of such convicted detainees who are still engaged in large-scale drug racketeering. The Ministry of Justice will make the report. I don't think there will be any sin, and I will sign the required orders to execute the capital punishment for convicted drug traffickers. I heard some anti-government forces saying that crime has gone up since this government came to power. The IGP is also here today. I have with me the police report of murders over the last 10 years. No one can challenge this report. In 2008, 1,378 murders were reported. In 2010, it was 741. In 2013, the number was down to 586. In 2014, it's 548. Illegal drug dealings are the major cause for most of these murders. The percentage is 90%. However, murder and rape cases have significantly reduced over the past 3.5 years. But when media give attention to some incidents, anti-government forces take advantage of it.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that the government has created an environment for the members in the public service to carry out their duties without any political interference. This, the Prime Minister believes, would allow the implementation of the policies of the government that would allow the country to flourish and reach its commitments towards the Sustainable Development Goals. The Prime Minister made this comment while addressing the South Asian Speakers Summit on Achieving Sustainable Development Goals held at the Parliamentary Complex today.
The speakers from South Asian nations took part today in the 3rd South Asian Speakers Summit on Achieving Sustainable Development Goals, organised by the Inter-Parliamentary Union and the Parliament of Sri Lanka, held at the Parliamentary Complex. The summit will aim to further discuss how parliaments can be a development factor, promoting the effective implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe ushered the event as its chief guest.
We have also, by the 19th Amendment, created 3 important independent commissions: the Judicial Service Commission, the National Police Commission and the Public Service Commission, which gives independence and space for public officers to operate. We are very proud of this achievement. Together with this law, you can ensure operational independence of the officials entrusted with implementing it, because the laws are good in many countries, but implementation has become the biggest problem. So we've created the atmosphere for implementation and the safeguards. We've created the law. There are also problems that we have to face. One is urbanization. A large urbanization is taking place in all parts of this region. We have planned it out with the around Western Colombo and Western Province, the megapolis, together with 2 urban corridors, one to Kandy, about 130 kilometers, and another one down south on the coast to Hambantota. The biggest challenge we have is water. The weather has not been kind to us, but having a series of droughts, increasing population, and the movement of population from the rural area cities, which means you need water supply schemes, sewerage schemes, is the other issue we have, both the cost and the availability of water.
Economic growth needs to be sustainable, equitable and green if we are to achieve the objective of tackling poverty, reducing socio-economic exclusion and providing decent job opportunities. This requires dismantling barriers and expanding opportunities for people who have low incomes, are marginalized or vulnerable. Accountable public action and investment generates quality jobs. Parliaments can play a vital role in conceptualizing a sustainable, equitable and green economy by setting national priorities and promoting regional cooperations. Parliament must take the responsibility of monitoring this process and ensuring its qualitative achievements. They must also identify the required financing for the implementation of strategies.
Now, as some of you might have witnessed early this morning, strong winds that swept across parts of Colombo has damaged over 264 houses within the district. The Met Department says that due to a disturbance in the Bay of Bengal, strong winds coupled with heavy rains can be expected in the next few days. Over 264 houses in the Colombo district was damaged due to heavy winds experienced this morning. Houses located in Homagama, Ratmalana, Dehiwala, Moratuwa, Padukka and Kasbava were the severely affected areas. The Disaster Management Centre says that an estimation of the houses that were damaged will be made in the near future and steps will be taken to compensate those families. Meanwhile, 4 buildings at the Christchurch Boys' School in Babdagama were damaged from strong winds. Our reporter said that despite students were present in the building at the time of the strong winds, no one was harmed from the incident. Heavy mist is also being reported from Hatton and Nuwara Eliya areas. Police request motorists to be vigilant when travelling in these areas as visibility has become poor.
The Met Department already extended the warning over possibility of strong wind in western and Wayamba, north central, Sabaragamuwa, southern, Uva and Trincomalee district, Kampara and Hambantota district. The sea areas also been notified in from Putlam to Kankansanture via Mana and Hambantota via Potuville to Kalmune area. So fishermen and fishing communities, naval communities has to be very vigilant with that prevailing conditions.
In other local stories we have for you tonight, a discussion took place this afternoon at the party headquarters of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party down Dali Road. Several high-ranking officials of the party took part in this meeting, including its General Secretary, Professor Rohana Lakshman Piyadasa, Minister Duminda Dissanayake and UPFA General Secretary Minister Mahinda Amravira. Soon after the meeting, speaking to media, Minister Amravira said that the discussion mainly focused on the 2020 presidential candidate along with several other matters pertaining to the restructuring of the party. The minister told media that the party stands firm with the decision that they will file current president and chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, President Maithripala Sirisena, as its presidential candidate. Now, responding to questions by journalists on former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa's possible candidacy towards president, Minister Duminda Dissanayake dismissed it and said that he cannot contest due to his dual citizenship. Meanwhile, the joint opposition also met last evening at the residence of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. During the talks that ensued, members of the joint opposition have decided that former President Mahinda Rajapaksa should give leadership to the future course of the faction and that he should be made the leader of the country.
Discussion at the residence of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa along the Vijayarama Mawatha lasted for over 2 hours and was attended by members of the joint opposition. The discussion was fruitful. We came across several issues like how to topple the government and how to gain power. It was decided that the former president should be made the leader of this country. So our main goal is to topple this government. Mahinda is who we support and we do not have a world without him. Meanwhile, during a media briefing held today, parliamentarian Dala Salahaperuma touched on several decisions taken at the meeting. The government and the official opposition is working hard to silence the voice of the joint opposition. For 3 years, we maintained our patience. But yesterday, we decided to continue our struggle as a separate group in opposition. The second decision was to form a new alliance under the name Sri Lanka Joint Opposition Front. Soon, discussions will begin with other party leaders to form this alliance.
Army Commander Lieutenant General Mahesh Senanayake was given a 1-year service extension by President Maithripala Sirisena today. Now with that, time now to take you across Sri Lanka with information on several stories that is making the news.
President's Counsel Hemantha Varnakulasuriya passed away last night at the age of 74. President's Counsel, late Varnakulasuriya, was on a mission to educate the public on the legal system of the country. His body is currently resting at his residence along the Canal Road in Colombo, and the final rites will be performed this Saturday. Several shops at the town of Vaunia have been burgled early this morning. Police suspect that it is an organised robbery given the number of shops burgled. Police also say that the value of the stolen goods is yet to be ascertained. Environmentalists expressed their dismay over the government's plan to confine the last 2 remaining elephants at the Singharaja Forest Reserve to a limited area of 50 acres with the use of an electric fence. They call on the authorities to be more practical when they seek solutions for the human-elephant conflict.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Business news now. The 6th EU-Sri Lanka Investor Dialogue was held at the Ministry of Development Strategies and International Trade recently. Minister of Development Strategies and International Trade Malik Samaravikrama led the Sri Lankan delegation, while the EU delegation was led by Ambassador of the European Union Tun Lai Mak. Among the matters which were discussed were the need to ensure transparency when it comes to tender procedures. A statement by the Board of Investment also said that many of the earlier outstanding matters were resolved through dialogue at this meeting. Both sides also discussed other matters such as the need for Sri Lanka to accept digital signatures on documents and the promotion of paperless communication. The Public Debt Department of Sri Lanka Central Bank sold 5 billion rupees of 3-month treasury bills at an auction today, with the yield edging up 2 basis points to 8.37% from last week. Data from the department showed it called for offers for 3 billion rupees in short-term T-bills and got offers of 8.4 billion rupees. The yield on the 1-year bill was unchanged at 9.43%, while the Public Debt Department selling almost 8.9 billion rupees worth of bills. It had offered 7 billion rupees of 1-year bills and got bids worth 3.2 billion rupees. Oil shares closed firmer today as investors brought beaten down blue chips, while many market participants remained on the sidelines due to a lack of bullish news amid concerns over political uncertainty. The Colombo Stock Index ended 0.25% higher at 6,092.65. Turnover stood at 461.6 million rupees. Foreign investors sold equity worth 79.8 million rupees today, extending the year-to-date net foreign sale to 2.8 billion rupees. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka rupee closed steady after 6 straight sessions of decline. The rupee closed flat at 159 rupees and 25.35 cents per dollar. It has declined 3.8% so far this year. Now here's a look at currency rates for the day. International news now. President Donald Trump accused fellow NATO ally Germany of being beholden to Russia because it buys energy from Moscow in pointed remarks ahead of a summit of the military alliance in Brussels. The US president said that Germany is a captive of Russia at a meeting with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, his first since arriving in the Belgian capital. Trump went on to complain that the United States is expected to defend them against Russia, despite Germany making billions of dollars in energy payments to Moscow.
US President Donald Trump slammed Germany for what he described as its gas ties with Russia during an official breakfast with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg ahead of the NATO summit in Brussels yesterday. Trump complained that the United States is protecting NATO countries against Russia, but that Germany continues to pay billions of dollars to Russia.
You're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia. And I think that's very inappropriate.
Trump referred to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline project that will bring Russian gas across the Baltic Sea. The US president said that as a result, Germany will have over 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas, so you tell me, is that appropriate?
I've been complaining about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened. But Germany is totally controlled by Russia because they were getting from 60 to 70% of their energy from Russia and a new pipeline. And you tell me if that's appropriate, because I think it's not. And I think it's a very bad thing for NATO.
During the official breakfast, Trump also complained that other member countries are not paying enough into the NATO budget.
The woes of British Prime Minister Theresa May continues. After surviving a resignation spree of top people in her cabinet, now a no-confidence motion is in the loom. A Tory backbencher has submitted a furious letter of no confidence in Prime Minister Theresa May, in which he accuses her of attempting to dupe the British electorate and of insulting their intelligence. In a letter to Sir Graham Brady, chairman of the Conservative Party's powerful 1922 committee, Andrew Brishan, a parliamentarian from North West Leicestershire, said that the party had to deliver Brexit or face the prospect of being punished at the polls at the next general election.
He wrote, "All we have asked from the Prime Minister is that she sticks to what she has promised on repeated occasions when she declared that Brexit means Brexit and pledged to take back control of our money, borders and laws." The letter further says that it appears those promises are all a pretense and a charade intended to dupe the electorate, which is an insult to their intelligence. If 48 letters are received by Brady from MPs, Theresa May would be forced to stand down and fight a leadership contest. On Monday, Theresa May addressed parliamentarians and raised the prospect of a Jeremy Corbyn-led government in an attempt to appeal for unity on Brexit.
Facebook will be fined $662,900 in the UK after the country's privacy watchdog said its data sharing scandal broke the law. The Information Commissioner's Office is hitting the social network with a maximum possible fine it can impose for 2 breaches of the UK's Data Protection Act. Analysts say the fine is not adequate, as the amount is a drop in Facebook's revenue.
The Information Commissioner's Office said that Facebook failed to safeguard people's information and was not transparent about the way in which user data was harvested by others. Information Commissioner Elizabeth Denham said in a statement today, "Trust and confidence in the integrity of our democratic processes risk being disrupted because the average voter has little idea on what is going on behind the scenes." The ICO said it will send out warning letters and audit notices to 11 political parties and will seek a criminal prosecution for SCL, the parent company of the now defunct controversial political data analytics firm Cambridge Analytica.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7, Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Mahesh Johnny. First at 9 will return tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to join us then. Now, before we wrap things up for tonight, we'd like to take you to Havagala in Benihulloya. Although it requires a hard-trekking journey, the view you see will render you speechless. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.